Most coaches lose a sale in the first 5 minutes of a call, not because of the price, not because of their offer. They're doing one thing that kills the deal before it even starts. They're trying to sell before they understand the problem. Let me show you what to do instead. The shift that changed everything for me was acting like a doctor. Anytime you go to a doctor's office, they typically ask you a boatload of questions. Of course, they get your height and weight, but they'll ask questions like what brought you in. And then once you explain the reason that you're there, they start asking more detailed questions about the thing that you're concerned about, a cough, headaches, stomach aches, whatever it may be. Before they can try and diagnose you, they have to understand what's going on. So they have a proper details in order to give you a proper diagnosis. The same thing happens when it comes to sales. Every closer that I've worked with, every person that I talk to about sales, I say you want to be like a doctor in your curiosity. You want to understand everything in its totality first, because only then can you then prescribe the right prescription for your prospects. So by doing so, you now have a firm grasp to say this is what the person is suffering from. Imagine going to the doctor and you tell them that you're sneezing and they don't ask any other further questions. So they'll say most likely you have allergies. But if they would have continued to ask questions to see what other symptoms you have, you would have explained, well, you have an itchy throat and it hurts when you swallow and you have fevers. So now instead of them diagnosing you with seasonal allergies, they'll say you have pneumonia or you have influenza, whatever the case may be. So by understanding what your prospect is going through in its entirety, you can then give them the proper diagnosis. And in doing so, your prospect will see you as the expert because you've experienced this before. Here's what the untrained closer will do. They'll hear one piece of what your prospect is dealing with, and they'll automatically jump to a prescription. What's going to happen is you're going to create friction in the mind of your prospect because they're going to be thinking, I've only given one piece of this puzzle. I haven't given the other 4 or 5 pieces. So how can you accurately come up with a solution of what I'm dealing with if you don't know everything that's going on? So in that scenario, you create doubt instead of trust. And in a world where people are constantly trying to push and promote their own services and products, trust is at an all-time low. So we don't want to be those people who come off as though we're only trying to make the sale. We want to come off as the person who genuinely wants to understand what the person is dealing with. A good analogy would be when you watch a movie, you don't want to skip all the way to the end. You want to understand the build up and the climax to the end. You don't want to go from the opening scene all the way to the end because you're going to miss all the important details in between that makes the movie valuable. Quick note before we go deeper. Everything that we're talking about here is the what, the how, the scripts, the call reviews, me being able to listen to your calls and find out exactly where you're losing deals. That is what's covered inside Closers Camp. I'm gonna be frank with you. Everything we talk about here is maybe 10% of the value that you'll get. Like you will walk away with tangible, actionable items from this, but to get the true value, you wanna be part of Closers Camp. That's where I can go in and listen to your calls and give you immediate feedback that you'll use on the very next presentation that you have. Links in the description if that's where you're at. Book some time on our calendar and we can see if we can help. All right, back to it. Here's something I think everyone can relate to. When you're talking with a doctor and you describe what you're experiencing, they typically have a name for it. You don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's the flu, maybe it's something else. But the moment you just start to describe the symptoms that you're experiencing, the doctor provides a label for it. That's strep, that's the flu. And they are able to describe it better than you are. What it does is it presupposes that they have the solution to it since they have a name or a label for it. Sales acts the exact same way. So when you are able to provide a label, the prospect is thinking to themselves, this person gets me. And what happens is trust goes through the roof. Because if you've seen it before, then most likely you've been able to help other people do it. If you've been able to help other people do it, then you'll be able to help me to do it as well. The goal here is to understand the problem so well that you are able to label it in your prospect's eyes. And the other piece of it is that once you do label it, Once you do identify what they're suffering from, whether it's fear, doubt, whether it's a lack of knowledge, whatever the case may be, you want them to agree with the diagnosis. Here's why this matters. When you diagnose someone properly, it eliminates the "I need to think about it" objection for the most part. There are still some occasions, well, it'll come up, because "I need to think about it" is not the objection. It's mainly uncertainty. They're uncertain of how the process works. They're uncertain of how this process is going to help them. They're uncertain whether the process will work for them based on either geographical location or prior experiences of people that you've shown. So if you show someone that doesn't fit the avatar of the person that you're talking to, they're going to feel like there's a disconnect. One thing that I recommend when it comes to showing your sneak peek or showing testimonials is you want to grab ones that are similar to the person that you're speaking to, because now they can see themselves in the seat of the prospect who already decided to work with you. And if you're able to do it for them, then why wouldn't you be able to do it for the person you're talking to? So in this case, you're not handling an objection, you're preventing an objection altogether. That's where you want to be at. The best time to handle an objection is not after price is on the table, not after we're talking about money, but you want to handle it in the discovery part. That's going to be your strongest. Bottom line, diagnosing instead of selling is the difference between chasing people and having them close themselves. I teach the full 5-phase process inside of our community, which is Closers Camp. This is where we get into objection prevention and helping people close themselves. If you're a coach or consultant that feels as though you're tired of losing deals that you feel that you should be closing, Closers Camp is built for you. Apply with the links down in the description. And if you're feeling like you're not there just yet, there's the ebook down there as well. $38 walks through our entire framework, not only what to say on the calls, but the follow-up sequences to go thereafter. Also, hit that subscribe button. I'm gonna do one of these, maybe 2 of these per week. Act like a doctor. Understand the entire picture before giving a prescription. Name it better than they can. When you do that, you'll stop chasing the close and people will start closing themselves.